Director Peter Brook said that all that he needed to make theater was a bare stage, what he called an empty space, a performer making a movement, and somebody to witness it. Peter Brook said that the essence of theater is that anything can happen, but that something must happen. Peter Brook is one of the great directors of all time. And before we get into the art of the director, which we're going to talk about today, I wanted to just make sure that we reviewed some of the basics of staging, some of the basic kind of staging design. So first of all, those of you who have been in any kind of theater probably know this, but for those of you who don't, I'm going to give you the basic terminology of the stage, okay? First of all, there is something that we call downstage. Downstage is the part of the stage that is closest to the audience. So if I'm doing this, I'm moving downstage. Now guess what upstage is? Upstage is the exact opposite. So when I am moving away from the audience, I'm moving upstage. Now this is in part because stages at different times have what is called a rake, which is kind of an incline that kind of starts low and goes high, so you can see better in the back, so that you are literally moving upstage the further you get away from the audience, okay? Downstage, audience, upstage. Now, stage positions are also from the actor's perspective. So the performer, the right side of the performer is stage right. So if I was going to move stage right, it's from my point of view, stage right. If I'm going to move stage left, left, right? What if I wanted to cross downstage right? Downstage right. Upstage left. Stage right. Okay, you get the point. It's from the performer's point of view. So just to make sure that we all understand this, I want everybody to stand up. Stand up. Okay, you're at the PCL, John. I know you are, but that's fine. Stand up, okay? Y'all standing? All right. Now, everybody move downstage. Imagine that your computer is the audience. Move upstage. Away from your computer. Move stage left. Move stage right. Cross downstage left. All right, good. So once you have this in your bodies, you can sort of see that this is the director's kind of nomenclature, the way that directors and actors say, okay, this portion of the stage is the one that we're going to move to. Now, how many of you actually did that? Hopefully some of you actually got up and did that. But get it in your bodies, get a sense of this. And again, it's always from the performer's perspective about stage right and stage left, okay? Now, the basic job of the director, I've often heard, and I think it's very true, is to say, what story do I want to tell, and how am I going to tell it? And to tell that story, there are different tools that directors have. First of all, the director has what we might call as composition, or stage picture, okay? Now this is something that you yourself have worked on. What we want to do is to think about the stage as like a canvas. The stage is the director's canvas, and the pictures that the director tells on this canvas reveal the story of the play itself. Now, there are different kinds of tools that you already implemented in your tableaus to create these stage pictures. But to just give you a sense or do a little review of some of these tools, I'm going to ask for a few volunteers from the audience. Anyone? Oh, yes, come up, come up. Come up, all of you who aren't compelled to volunteer because you're TAs for the class. Come. Thank you for coming up of your own free will. So what I'm going to have you do is just kind of stand in a line. Dan, Alexis here, and then Jeff, Ganjams here in the center. Okay. Now, the art of directing is the art of drawing focus. Unlike movies and TV, we don't have a camera to do close-ups. So what the director needs to do is to use tools to draw focus where she wants to underscore the story being told, okay? So if we wanted, naturally, right here, where is our eye drawn? This is the first kind of question that we ask. And for me, my eye is drawn to Jeff, because we have a couple of people who are dressed in semi-19th century Norway garb, and then Jeff, who is dressed like a great Austin exercising hipster. And he's got red, and he's in the middle. So these are all different things. Color draws focus. Stage position draws focus. Now, what if we wanted to increase the focus on Jeff? Let's say that Jeff really is the hero of this story. What could we do? Well, one of the basic tools that directors want to make sure that you're doing in stage picture and composition is levels. So let's create some different levels. Jeff, would you mind kneeling, please? Well, this definitely creates a different stage picture. And Jeff, I am more drawn to you because of the contrast between you and the other two. But let's say your character isn't the one who kneels, but really is the one to be celebrated. So why don't you stand, Jeff? Okay. And let's use levels on a different way. Alexis and Dan, why don't you kneel? Oh, yes. This is fantastic, right? Now, and Jeff is gesturing as if he's Hrosvitha. I'm not sure what I don't know. But he's got a great gesture. There's a certain kind of thing, but naturally there's something that in the drawing of focus here that we have, right? And you can see naturally too that what Dan and Alexis are doing is they are what's called throwing focus. They're giving focus to Jeff. Now, if Jeff was looking down and Alexis was still looking at Jeff and Dan looks at us, that was awesome. Okay, so immediately your focus goes to Dan, right? Because they have focus here, but because Dan is different and Dan is not throwing his focus to Jeff, we stop looking at Jeff. Okay, so let's give it back to Jeff here. Okay, and another thing that we can do is we can change stage position. So what if, Jeff, you take a step forward, right? Oh, wow. Yes. So, why don't Dan and Alexis, you guys move to the corners? Okay. And now we're flanking. Now we have this. And now give us a nice big gesture like you're giving a political speech, right?
Like a Clinton-esque or like a...
more like Mark Antony than Bill Clinton. Okay, great. So a nice big gesture. We're all looking at him. So here we've introduced a number of different tools to draw focus. One is levels. One is stage position, and he is now downstage center. One is gesture, and one is just where actors are looking, stage focus. I just want to, there's kind of an inherent contrast in this as well. What if, Dan, go over by Alexis, and why don't you turn your backs to us? Okay? Now, Jeff, put your arm down. A different stage picture, okay? Now, I'm not sure exactly. I'm still looking at Jeff, but this is a very different story. And here's the point. Just by arranging actors in space, by stage composition, audiences begin to create story in their minds. They begin to think about what kind of world is this where these two people are faced away from Jeff. And now, Jeff, what if you put your head in your hands? Right? There is a sense here, immediately I get a sense of a couple of people shaming him, right? One gesture, or a couple of people who aren't tolerating Jeff for who he is. We tolerate you. We love you, Jeff, so that we wouldn't do that to you. But that's a story, right? Our minds, our imaginations begin to create story just from these basic images, okay? So Jeff, thanks so much for coming up. Let's just, real quick, I want to, you can be done.
Oh, thank you.
Let's take a look at, because we're going to look at a doll's house today. Let's take a quick look at Helmer and Nora here. And you can see how some of these basic tools of stage composition can exist within a play, right? And again, this is something you did in your tableau somewhat. But the idea is that just by looking at the image, we can get a sense of the story that's being told. So can we just have you, Dan, sit in this chair reading a newspaper? And Alexis, why don't you just stand right here and look, right? So here in the beginning, this is perhaps the beginning of A Doll's House, where Nora's trying to get his attention, but he is not to be bothered. Okay, now what if we had Nora kneel at his feet? and you still don't look. This communicates a strong story about what the nature of this relationship is. Now, why don't you stand up and fold your arms, Dan? Wonderful. So just by this, we are communicating a powerful story. Okay, take a seat for a second. So stage composition, stage picture are a couple of the tools of the director. One other major tool is the fact that story gets underscored by what we call blocking or staging. Now, blocking and staging is the marking of where actors move on stage. So actors actually take their scripts out, and they'll take a pencil, and they'll say, on this line, I cross down stage left, right? Cross down stage left. So blocking or staging is the director's job. And the director tells actors, usually with some sort of collaborative input, where they move on stage. So let's just do a couple of those basic stage movements. The idea is, again, we want to underscore storytelling. What story do we want to tell, and how do we tell it? We can do it by stage pictures, we can do it by stage composition, and we can do it by blocking. So let us start here with you reading your newspaper. And let's just do something simple, Nora, where you come here, and he's reading, and you put your finger down, and you put your finger and you push down the newspaper and look at him, and then you look at her, okay? Yeah, there's a lot communicated in that, right? Now, as a director, one thing I would say is, I'm missing her face. So I would need to find a way to open her up. So what I'm going to tell her to do is to adjust that movement and come from here and do it. So we can open yourself up and see that space. Did you see how her face was kind of closed off? So directors are constantly making adjustments because what they want the audience to do is to be able to see the story that's being told. Can you do that again? Good. Now we see much more, and we get a little better sense of what the scene is that we're about to see. Now, great. Now, Nora, let's say later here, Helmer has discovered the letter, and here you are, standing right here. Why don't you take a letter and put it right in front of her face, okay? Walk down slowly. Boom, right? One stage movement, one bit of blocking communicates, I want you to answer for this. He didn't say, I want you to answer for this letter. It's just this stage movement that does it. Now let's reverse it at the end of the play where she puts down the letter and sits him down to have the big talk. Boom. And we can see right now, if you just look at this, that stage movement where she reverses the power dynamic is the essence of directing. What we want to do is be able to trace the whole story of the doll's house without words. Just by underscoring this, we can see that the situation has changed. Nora has a little bit of power now, and what used to be this very kind of melodramatic, masculine act of standing power becomes a reversal. So, thank you very much. We'll see. You'll come back to them and you'll see them doing some of this in a second. I'm gonna, another part of the job of the director, which you'll see a bit later, is coaching the actors and giving them some adjustments. So we'll get to that later. But I want to leave you with a little quote that I think relates to what Dr. Canning is about to take you through. Peter Brook in The Empty Space, as I mentioned, said that the word reality has many different meanings. We're talking about a world of realism. And I think Dr. Canning is going to unpack that a little bit with you. So Dr. Canning, what do you want to teach us?